I'm getting used to public speaking. I never used to like it, but I think I'm a kind of a crazy person, so I really enjoy being up here, actually. I'll come down so it doesn't make noise with my shoes all the time. But I read something this morning, which it had nothing to do with my talk, but I thought was very interesting to share, is that we always think the grass is greener on the other side, right? You've all heard that comment before. But I learned this morning that the grass is greener when you water it. And that is pretty deep. And I think that a lot of us don't realize that our lives are controlled by our mind and our body and how we feel about what we do and what we say to people and how we treat each other. And so today I'm talking mainly about anxiety, depression as it relates to hormonal balance, but also want to emphasize that we all go through things that we may think are negative, but they are for growth. They're for us to learn, to get better, and to treat each other better is one of the main things I think we need to always remember, but it starts from within. And so my first slide is about the mind-body connection, and that our hormones actually affect how our mind and body actually function. Genetics controls about 70% of what and who we are. Environment has a significant impact as well, but so do food and exposure to pesticides, which is a big problem that we're faced with today. A lot of us are not realizing why we're not feeling good, but it starts from inside out. Our skin, where I put these nice lotions on, is 7 layers thick. Our lungs, where breathing our nice SUVs we drive in, emissions are not great for our bodies, but our lungs are 4 layers thick. Our gut is 1 layer thick. So whatever we put into our body affects how we feel and how we function, and the gut is very important. And we're so exposed to so many chemicals in our food that we need to be aware of what we need to start doing. We need to go back to 1910, where we eat what God provides: meat, fruits, and vegetables. All of these other man-made products is creating a problem for our bodies. And so, next slide. What we put in our bodies affects how we feel, think, function, and perform. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care affects our mind, our body, and our spirit. And who we surround ourselves with affects how we feel. So don't surround yourself with someone who's always negative, because they're going to bring you down. Try to surround yourself with positivity. It builds you up. It makes you feel good. And mental health is not always about covering up how you're feeling with medications. It's about learning and understanding what makes you feel good or bad. And hormone balance is a big part of that. Diet, exposure to environmental factors is something we have a hard time with, but is a big contributor to anxiety and depression. Next slide. Leaky gut is leaky brain. And that truly is a factor that people don't bring into when they're not feeling well. So depression, mood swings, anxiety, nervousness, fatigue, confusion, even schizophrenia, oftentimes associated with our gut. So eating healthy, getting your gut healthy, a lot of people have SIBO, people know that word now, but small intestinal body overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, I can't even say the word, really can affect how you're feeling. But you don't get sick when you eat something right away, so you don't correlate it with that, but it really affects your feeling and how your brain functions when your gut is unhealthy. Next slide. So we know that we're not supposed to eat more white foods, like vegetables, all different colors, have great nutrition. Meat, fruits, vegetables, as I said, the problem with our environment lately is our meats are getting, not genetically modified, but getting hormones that are stimulating growth of the animals, and we're actually getting the result of that as well. Even dairy is being affected, and now big companies like Ben & Jerry's are now learning that they need to get organic farming for their dairy, because they're finding that glyphosates that they're finding in food is now coming through the milk of the cows and into the food that we're eating, just like Ben and Jerry's ice cream. They're learning that they need to now get more organic farming, get organic so that they're not getting exposed to chemicals that may be causing problem for all of us. And it starts in our gut. When you eat that chemical, your body's going to react, and it's going to react to protect itself. And so eating well is important. Next, omega-3 fatty acids, something that's simple. Fish oils. Why do Japanese men have the lowest incidence of prostate cancer? Japanese women have the lowest incidence of breast cancer. They eat food rich in fish oils and iodine, and these things are protective. So fish oils actually are important excitatory ions. The medical part is just to be there to explain that depression can be affected by these pro-inflammatory mediators, by IL-1, IL-6, which nobody needs to know those words, but it actually can affect how you're feeling by feeling better and having a better immune system. Next, the neurotransmitters in the brain are affected by all of these. Your body feels and is affected by neurotransmitters in the body, actually. Norepinephrine is the flight or fight response. When a car is coming to hit you, you know to duck and brace for it. Dopamine is when you're happy, and that's what's secreted when you're happy. And acetylcholine is in every cell in the body, but glutamate and GABA are the excitatory and inhibitory neurons. And excitatory glutamate, which I call the Jimi Hendrix, and I call GABA the James Taylor, which all these young people probably don't know who those are. But if you have too much GABA, which is the inhibitory neuron, too much James Taylor, you may crave cocaine. Or if you have too much glutamate, which is the excitatory, you may crave marijuana. People are looking for balance when they go out. We judge people, but sometimes they go to the doctor and they're just given antidepressants. They know they're not necessarily depressed, but they're looking for balance. And so they may choose what is available out there to try and make that balance. But sometimes what we need to do is to have things that can help build up our neurotransmitters in our body to improve our behavior and our mood and our feeling of well-being. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain. It plays a critical role in cell-to-cell contact, and it can be affected, and the receptors are mediated by anxiolytic and sedatives. So a lot of people will give somebody a sedative to calm them down. Next. But GABA imbalance can cause anxiety, depression, restlessness, and sleep disturbances. Next. And GABA is formed by glutamate. And I'll show you how glutamate is the excitatory neuron, right? When you have pyridoxine, which is B6, that binds to the glutamic acid decarboxylase and is upregulated by taurine. Taurine is something that's only found in meat and avocados. So vegetarians, if they're not eating enough avocados, may sometimes be taurine deficient. And thank you. And that's okay. Glutamate imbalance can also cause these symptoms: anxiety, depression, mood swings. And glutamine is something your body naturally makes. When it binds to B6, which is the pyridoxine, it forms glutamate, which can help reduce all of these problems. So some of us are deficient in glutamine but don't know. So there's testing that you can actually do to check your levels to see if you're low or not. And glutamine it's so cheap. It's a powder that a lot of bodybuilders take to get strong and feel excited. And so that's why with B6 and glutamine, they can be ready for their show, right? And it actually helps prevent migraines and chronic pain and anxiety when this is balanced. Next. These are the neurological and the psychiatric component to glutamate imbalance. There's lots of diseases that people see frequently, like autism. We've seen that more and more caused by our diet, and deficiencies in B vitamins and magnesium. Next. Glutamate goes through the NMDA receptors in the brain, and next slide. And it's really hard to see because I don't have a marker, but I'll walk down and actually show you this. But magnesium is a very important component to feeling better and stimulating glutamate receptors. If you look here, these yellow dots is magnesium, and it binds to the receptor in the brain to help with preventing depression and helping with balance. And it's really important when people are deficient in magnesium, like autistic kids, if they get magnesium replaced, instead of hiding under a chair, they can come out and start hugging people. Something that simple. But we're not addressing that. We cover it with medications. You know, so one of the things we have at Quantum is float therapy. Next slide. Basically, you lay in 1,200 pounds of Epsom salt. I actually have 20% off coupons here for anybody who attended this lecture. And we actually have a drawing for free float that you can actually experience. And we will say then the winner later, I'll call. And then we also have something, you get a 40% off if you buy one today with a free t-shirt. But what float therapy is, you lay in 1,200 pounds of Epsom salt, 12 inches of warm water, it gets rid of toxins. It really is laying in magnesium sulfate, which goes through our skin, which is our biggest organ, and helps with mental clarity. And so magnesium, which I showed you is so important for glutamate balance, which you don't need to know all that, but it helps mental clarity, and that's why it's good for anxiety, depression, migraines, which is usually a magnesium deficiency, as well as a B deficiency, and then also for muscle recovery. So Tom Brady floats weekly. They didn't win their championship game, but he floats weekly. Steph Curry floats weekly. He actually has his own tank, and the reason he has his own tank is his wife, Giselle, makes much more money than he does, so they just own everything. But he at 42 is amazing in his trade, and the reason is he's actually a vegetarian. He actually does all the things that makes him healthy in regards to meditation. He does yoga. He does float therapy. He does all the things to get him just a little better than everybody else. And actually, the track team at K-State floats with us every Wednesday. And this year they won the Big 12, so I said that's why they won the Big 12, because they floated with us. No. They actually had no injuries, and one of the main things that magnesium does is for muscle recovery, to prevent injuries and to help your muscles maintain their strength as well. And so most of the people that know, and like Olympic athletes, they know if they take magnesium, they can recover, but they can't take enough orally because it will upset their gut, and they can't be running and then go, oops, I gotta go. So, and they don't want the GI side effects of it. So they know that floating, it goes through their skin, so they don't get the GI side effects, and they actually get the mental clarity to run the race the best way possible, and to focus, and then to sleep and recover so they can run the next race in 5-10 minutes at their best. These are some things, if you can't float and you can't afford, or you're afraid, like I'm actually claustrophobic, I can't float with it closed, so we have where you can float with it open. But these are some foods that are rich in magnesium that can actually help you as well, like Brazil nuts and pumpkin seeds. These are rich in magnesium that can help some natural ways to eat. Next slide. And magnesium deficiency can actually cause migraines, depression, osteoporosis, kidney stones. I'm a urologist. I practiced for 22 years. We don't tell people how not to get kidney stones. We just treat it, right? So one of the key things that I've learned since going back to school and getting my master's in nutrition is you can actually help prevent that by changing your diet. Of course, drinking water, like he said, we need to drink 100 ounces. That's correct. Actually, specifically, per weight, you're supposed to drink half your body weight times ounces, and that's how much you actually need in a day. So some of us need more than others, but it's very important for cleansing and getting and detoxing as well. But these are important things that athletes at high levels actually know to replete themselves, to increase their ATP production, and is an integral part in muscle recovery and mental focus. Next. Now, how do hormones have an effect on our balance? Hormones control, they're made in the pituitary gland, in the adrenal gland, in our ovaries and testes, responsible for many changes in our bodies, right? And they're important for not just the circulatory system, but also the lymphatic system, to get out all the negative that we're exposed to, whether it's chemicals in our lotion, in our food, wherever we're exposed to all this bad chemicals that we are now exposed to in our industrialized age, we need to be able to get rid of them. And so clearing the gut, flushing the kidneys, all very important. Responsible for how you look, feel, function, and perform. Now, this is a lovely slide from biochemistry. I know everybody likes this slide, not. But the way I like to describe it is, thyroid's the engine, Cortisol is the gas in the tank, and the tires are testosterone, estrogen, the sex hormones. So the car needs to function well by all parts of the car working well. So if your thyroid is not optimized, you can have a good engine but don't have enough oil in the engine, right? So your thyroid could be working, but if you don't have enough zinc, selenium, iron, and iodine, maybe your thyroid is not optimized. And these are simple things that you can get in food. Iodine you can get in fish. Zinc you should get in radishes. Selenium you should get in Brazil nuts or pumpkin seeds. Iron from meat. So all of us have the things, but our soil is so depleted lately, we're not getting the nutrients we need. So eating organic is huge, and stimulating the thyroid function is very important for weight loss, blood pressure, heart rate, and even in women, their menses. So sometimes when that's off, your thyroid may be off. Cortisol is the gas in the tank. We're all stressed, right? So at Quantum, one of the things that we do is to try to reduce cortisol for people. Cortisol, that's why we have massage therapists. We have 2 massage therapists. We have float therapy. We have a gym there for people to work out with a personal trainer. We also have yoga next door to us for helping people get good homeostasis. And then these 2 are free. Deep breathing, like you talked about. Chin up, chest out, shoulder back, arms out. Love it. That was really a great talk, by the way. And deep breathing and resetting and even meditation is fantastic for reducing cortisol. Now that's the gas in the tank. The tires are testosterone and estrogen. One of the main things that reduces testosterone is stress. Cortisol will steal progesterone and testosterone anytime. I'll see soldiers at Fort Riley that are 20 years old. They should have a testosterone of 1100 and it's 300. And because the government has a ratio of 280 to 1100, they say it's normal. Somebody at 20 should not be 300. Who is more stressed though? They're being shot at, they're in a foreign country, they're eating MREs, they're away from family. That's horrible. So most soldiers, when they've gained weight and they're not feeling well and the anxiety and depression, they have testosterone deficiency. And so when testosterone goes low, the precursor up here, which is cholesterol, increases. So a lot of people will go to their doctors and their cholesterol will be high. And if the cholesterol's high, we're just put on Crestor and Lipitor, but that's not treating the cause. The cause is either testosterone, estrogen are low, cortisol, which everybody is stressed for some reason, whether it's your hair or the weather or whatever it is for you, you don't have the right computer that works to project, like me today, or your thyroid's off. So I like to describe it as a car. The engine is the thyroid, right? If you have new tires, if I give you testosterone and estrogen, and your engine's pretty good, if you've got no gas in the tank, you're not going very far. Similarly, if we reduce your stress by coming to this lecture and learning a little bit about yourselves and reducing anxiety, and we put new tires on you, but if you've got poor oil in the engine, the car's not going everywhere. So hormonal balance, regulating your testosterone, regulating your thyroid, reducing stress is so important. That's where the mind-body connection comes into play. We really need to be in balance for us to feel good, to feel our optimum, to really function as a good person in life and to others. And if you're not feeling well, sometimes that's why you're not helping others or being nice to others as well. Next slide. Now, this is another lovely slide. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone, I said before, genetics is 70%, sodas, sugar, aspartame. Who knows how many teaspoons of sugar is in a regular soda? Teaspoons. 9 teaspoons of sugar. And in diet soda, how many teaspoons? 6. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm having a diet soda. No, horrible. And then everything we're eating these days, like the aspartame and our equal and all the sugars we're exposed to, these are all horrible things that affect our cortisol. Heavy metals. I'm drinking from plastic today, and I even know better, right? But it's convenience. And so these things can affect cortisol, which then can have an effect on osteoporosis, autoimmune disorders, cancers, diabetes, thyroid, hypertension. So genetics is one part, But if you can fix the other environmental things like reducing our exposure to pesticides by eating more organic, by reducing our exposure to plastics and heavy metals, and having less sugar, that's a big addiction that starts from Gerber baby food all the way up, that we just want more sugar. And it's an addiction because the brain only uses carbohydrates for energy. It doesn't use protein or fat. So when you're wanting sugar, don't feel bad, it's not your fault. It's what the brain is telling you you need, but you actually have to suppress that to be able to realize that your body needs to be in balance. Too much of anything is not good. So testosterone declines in our 30s, and progesterone and estrogen decline in our 40s, way before people actually feel something. Most people wait till they're post-menopausal, next slide, or in andropause for men. And this is when most people are thinking they're having problems, but they're really starting around here, you know, to have issues. And most people don't realize that progesterone declines by 75%, which is important for mood, sleep, and anxiety. So most people don't realize that when you have anxiety, it could be a hormonal deficiency. I had a friend 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, probably shouldn't talk about it, it makes me choke up, who committed suicide. And I didn't realize, and nobody else did either, that she probably had a progesterone deficiency. Next slide. And when you're estrogen dominant, oftentimes that means you don't have enough progesterone, you have too much estrogen. You'll have cramps, you'll have cysts, you'll have infertility, you have migraines, anxiety, mood swings. If you just cover those with pain medicines and anxiety medicines, you're not fixing the cause. You need to balance between estrogen and progesterone. That's when you feel better. And that's probably what was happening to her. She was given antidepressants. That's not going to help her because we didn't balance her hormones. And so I wish I had known to be able to help her. You know, you don't know till you know, right? But I didn't realize this person had problems because they had the same problem after trying 5 years to have a baby. They wanted 6 months later to kill that baby. Really, that doesn't happen. That is not a person that's normal. So you know they were imbalanced, and hopefully in the future, if you know why I'm speaking about this and letting you guys know, is you may know somebody in that situation and you can help them by being educated about it today, learning that maybe they could do something else and not just cover it. Because the medicines get you really high, like dopamine high, and then bottom out. And unless you're able to address that or help somebody who's in that situation, they may not get any help. Next slide. So most people know that with menopause, it's fatigue, joint pain, hot flashes, that kind of stuff, weight gain. Most times I see people as a urologist when they start leaking urine or they have painful intercourse. But what we really want to prevent long-term is Alzheimer's, cognitive issues, osteoporosis, skin, eye tooth degeneration. I'll give you this quick story. My mom at 70 looked 50 when she was on hormones. And somebody said, oh, you're 70, you don't need hormones anymore. She worked till 72. Now at 80, she looks 90 because she stopped her hormones. And now she has no teeth, her vision's poor, she has osteoporosis, she has Alzheimer's. So very personal. And I can't fix her because she's my mom, I can't help. You know, I try to educate her doctors, but you know, that's another thing. So thinking outside the box is one thing I want to teach today. Don't just go to the norm. Think about the other things that could be simple to treat. You know, what is affecting the mind? What is affecting your body? And that balance, this crazy chart that I have here, just remember the tires, gas in the tank, and thyroid. That's going to be easier. That's your testosterone, your estrogen, your progesterone that could be off. Help regulate your stress with sleeping, meditating, breathing, huge one. Regulate your, getting a massage, doing float therapy, you know. There are things that are out there for us to do alternative medicine. And regulating your thyroid, that's something so simple. Sometimes you may just need a supplement. And at Quantum, next slide, we do free initial consultations. So if you're even interested in just finding out more, we have a nutritionist that can help us with gut health and help with weight loss. We have access to the correct magnesiums, because there's 7 types. Magnesium sulfate's what's in the float tank. There's magnesium aspartate and malate, which is what you get at Walmart, which is not well absorbed in the gut. There's magnesium oxide, which is the milk of magnesia. You can't take that every day. Magnesium citrate that cleans you out for colonoscopy. You can't take that every day. But the magnesium glycinate, which is what we would recommend, would help. Taurine can help with regulating your GABA. And then also glutamine. It's a powder. It's cheap. Some things like this could be helpful in helping you regulate your anxiety and depression and sleep. And of course, float therapy. Has anyone heard of float before today? Yes, it's really, really good for you. Not just because I'm at the center, but I keep forgetting myself because I get busy and don't do it. And the other day I was working out, my muscles were sore, I got a massage, but then I did float after. Oh, so relaxing. Actually, you'll need an Uber home if you do both. And we actually do have combos. Actually, for a float and massage together, it's $100. It's really not horrible. It's really worth it, and it's going to be some nice specials for Valentine's Day if you want somebody to have a gift. But nutrition, hormonal balance, regulating cortisol, estrogen, progesterone. Next slide. We offer that now. We have other sexual dysfunction things, which I won't talk about today, but that's also a big thing for some women that have been traumatized, who have pain. Mona Lisa, which is a laser therapy, which is really good for people that leak urine, that have painful intercourse dryness. This is some really state-of-the-art stuff that we have here in Manhattan, Kansas. But the basics are mind-body connection. How can we help you improve with time? Next slide. So I just want to say, take the quantum leap to wellness. We're here for you. We're here to help educate you about what you can do to reduce your stressors, especially in the holidays. I think it's the funnest time of the year. I don't understand how some people get so depressed, but it's also stressful being around family that have their expectations of you, and you've grown beyond that. And so that's also a big stressor for some people, and that's why people have trouble dealing during the holidays. But self-care, number one, taking care of yourself, then you're able to take care of others. I'm really happy to have been able to educate you all today. And if you have any questions, please come anytime, even today, but we do free consults. I'd be more than willing to help you even further. Thank you.